The Manage Smarter Show is brought to you by SalesCred, the app that helps salespeople discover why they miss quota and what to do about it. Find out more at salescred.com. Welcome to the Manage Smarter podcast with hosts C. Lee Smith and Audrey Strong. We're glad you're here for discussions on new ways to manage smarter, hire, develop, and retain talent, improve results, and propel team performance to new heights. This is the Manage Smarter podcast.
Lee, today we have Elaina Zuker, who's an expert in influencing and influencing your boss specifically is the topic today. And I got to tell you, I've tried that in some complex organizations and I have not succeeded sometimes. And so I want to know what I did wrong. And I'm so glad she's here.
As a leader or whatever, it's much easier, obviously, to influence down because, I mean, you control their work hours, their careers, their promotion, that sort of thing. So it's much easier to influence people that way. But to influence up, where you may not be privy to all the information that they are, privy to, and also in the fact that, you work for them. Much more challenging. So that's why I can't wait to talk to Elaina today.
Good. Well, hang on, Elaina. I got to say, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Manage Smarter. If you haven't listened to this show before, welcome. Thank you for coming. And my name is Audrey Strong. I'm the Senior Vice President of Communications here at Sales Fuel.
And I'm C. Lee Smith. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Fuel.
And so, Elaina, before we start talking to you, I'm going to explain who you are a little bit better. You're a speaker, author, consultant, and educator. You've had a long, successful career in New York City and California. Now you're up in Montreal, and your current focus is Secrets of Influence. You've got a wildly popular seminar based on your best-selling book, 7 Secrets of Influence. And the program, everyone, is now available in an e-learning version. I mean, how convenient is that? And so let's talk about influencing your boss. Welcome, Elaina. And I mean, where do you want to start with this?
Okay, well, thank you so much. So first, thank you for inviting me. I love to talk about this topic, so I never run out of ways to talk about it. So let me just first say that what you said earlier, Lee, like influencing down, isn't really influence. It's like, because I'm the mom, I said so. You don't need to study influence to do that because, as you said, people are under your control. And how to influence upward, which is one of the things we talk about in the webinar a few weeks ago, is a little more challenging. And I would say that the principles abide that I advocate, and that is, as you said, Lee, likes like. So people want you to speak in their language. Now, I know there's a lot been said about love languages. So let me explain. So our course, Secrets of Influence, has people identify what their favorite influence style is out of a spectrum of 6 different styles. And I'll get to why we call this 7 Secrets of Influence, which is a big mystery to people.
The math doesn't add up there, Elaina. You're going to have to explain that.
I will in a minute. So the idea is that first you learn about yourself, because we're all interested, right, in me. And that's a little bit useful. But what's even more useful is now that you know that there are 6 different approaches or styles, you can look at other people through the spectrum, through the prism of these 6, to understand better what is their favorite decision-making style. And then the overlying principle, which is the 7th secret, is that influence equals attentiveness plus flexibility. So attentiveness means observation and listening. So you're listening not only with your ears, but with your eyes, and you're looking at body language to understand what is the preferred way of communicating of the person you're trying to influence, in this case, your boss, and flex your communication to match hers. So you're changing style, not substance. No one is asking you to compromise the integrity of your product or service. You're not flexing that way. It's only in the style. Okay. So I'll give you an example very quickly. So, for example, suppose my boss is a numbers person and she likes evidence and facts and data. And I have this great new idea that I come to her with, and I want to influence her to fund it. And I am very emotional, very excited. This is going to reap us benefits in the future. Well, I notice that she's glazing over. Has that happened to anybody? Everybody.
Everybody.
So I realize, if I'm aware, that this is not her language, because I can tell her about all the wonderful and great results we're going to have in this brighter future. She wants show me. And I need to understand that she will only be convinced, influenced when I give her data. And even though I'm not so adept in that sphere, I might have to, work with some people on my team to get ready to present that evidence for her. And I can tell that story, Lee, if you think it's appropriate now.
Yeah, go right ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you.
Okay, so I'll tell you a little story about how this applies if you're because influence happens one person at a time. And you can't really lump or generalize about groups. Like you can't really say all engineers are X, right? Because when you uh, uh, dive in and give each of them the assessment, our influence styles inventory, you will find that they're all over the place in terms of their styles and preference. So it's very important to know this. The basic credo of sales is read the room. But it is difficult, even though I'm a public speaker. Lee, you do public speaking. I don't know if you do, Audrey, but read the room is a very tall order, because what if there are 250 people in the room? Okay, so here's a little story. So several years ago, I was invited as one of about 6, 7 vendors to present my wares, my influence program, to the HR director of a huge multinational company, which will remain unnamed, American Express. And,
Failed.
and I was invited to the New York headquarters. I had been given a big binder a few months earlier, which was what they used to invite vendors. I hate the fact that I got all these advanced degrees and they still call me a vendor, but anyway. So I show up, and I knew there were 6 other entities, and I was told that I had 45 minutes and that I could use whiteboards or whatever. And now, so I entered a room, and there's 6 people or so sitting at a table, with their arms folded, and I don't know who they are, and they've only heard about me. And I don't know if these are the actual people who created that binder 6 months earlier. Probably not, because there was so much turnover there. So I made an executive decision, and I strongly advocate this. I used 10 of my 45 minutes to warm up the room. So, I asked politely if I may ask a few questions before I get started. And what I did was ask them what's important to them and a couple of other questions about their uh, most desired training program. And then I looked to see who deferred to whom in that little crowd of 6 people, who agreed with whom. And there was one category of features and benefits that nobody seemed to be interested in. So I dumped it. Now you have to be prepared and yet be prepared to improvise, right? So I asked my questions, and then the other thing is that, it warmed up the room because you see that they're just people. A lot of people look kind of cranky in their resting face. And and they're
We're
not.
talking about bosses again now, right?
Pardon?
We're talking
Yeah,
about
and they're
bosses
not
again
really
now. Yeah.
that crabby.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So anyway, so that's the story, and the end result was that I did get the contract.
Fantastic.
But I want to talk about another technique, if I may. It's an influence hack. And I mentioned it on a recent webinar. I sort of pulled it out. It's really kind of day 2 of my program. It's more advanced influence. And I didn't invent it. It's called precision, and it comes from NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And I think this will be a very good tip for people wanting to influence their boss. And when I said to you in our emails, Audrey, that this was very meta, because the example I'm going to use now has to do with Audrey and me and our communication yesterday. So now, it was no fault of Audrey's, but she said, "Are you ready for the podcast?" And I said yes, and I wrote her back and said, "Will it be audio or video?" And she said, "Both." And then I asked her how much of it will be audio. And then she told me that the way it's structured is that, first it's 30 minutes of audio, and then Lee chimes in for a couple of questions that go on video. And I think I asked her a couple of other clarification questions.
Right, you did.
Right. So, at the risk of bothering her, I mean, this is my point. Sorry, folks. So, at the risk of bothering you with so many follow-up questions, I got very, very clear of what was going to be expected of me. Like, I think I even asked, will you guys have questions, or do you just want to start and just have me just talk? Right. And all of that helped prepare me. So what happens with people and their bosses is your boss says something like, "I want to get that out by Friday." And how to unpack the vagueness of that is if you take just a few minutes to ask more. I don't know about you, but have you ever been in the situation where your boss or somebody higher up says, "I want
like my wife,
that
definitely
now."
higher up.
Pardon, right? And then you go to
Yeah.
your cubicle or your office and you say, "What the heck did he mean?" And you spend hours, asking yourself, did he smile when he said that? Like all these things, trying to psychoanalyze what a person meant when you could just have stayed there if it was in person and say, "Look, I want to absolutely deliver what you want. And I'm a little unclear. What do you mean by that? Right? Is it the whole team report? Like, I love the word agenda, for example. Let's work on the agenda. What do you mean by agenda? Is it a written out list of all the events of the day? Is it just a highlights of the events of the day? Help me help you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So these questions, as I say, it's not my invention. I just execute it. And I think it's a very, very helpful tip for understanding and influencing your boss. And don't be intimidated, because those few minutes that you spend doing this, these are called block-busting questions, by the way.
I like that.
And it's from a book. I think the book is called Precision, and it's by Bandler and Grinder. These are the founders of NLP, but you can also find it in my book, Seven Secrets of Influence. And of course, I give them attribution.
That sounds good. Well, your website is easyinfluence.com, and everybody, it's easy, those two letters, not EASY. We've got about 4 minutes left. Lee, I'm going to
Okay.
give you the final question for Elaina.
Yeah, I remember
Okay.
when we were doing a webinar together recently. You did a poll, and you asked essentially people like, think of a time where you were influenced, and what influenced you. And then you asked a follow-up poll question, where you said, when you try to influence other people, how do you try to influence them? The results are very interesting. You want to talk about that?
Yes. So I asked people that in a poll because it was a webinar and it was virtual. I couldn't see who was there. And so when I asked, I always ask that question because we're bombarded by attempts to influence us more and more. I don't know about your inbox, but, you know,
Mhm.
you get a lot of people trying to sell you. Now I notice that I even get people doing a hard sell in a LinkedIn message, which is such a no-no.
Yeah, right.
In any case, right? We see ads for illnesses we didn't know we had, for remedies for those. So I like to ask people to get their awareness of, are you aware of how you are influenced by other people? So when was the last time someone influenced you to do, think, or change or believe something different? Buy a car, sell a car, etc. And people really have to think. And then I give them a choice of words to choose from because they can't really quickly come up with the word. And I say, what do you think was the trigger that caused you to say yes? And so that's like an easier question, right? And so then I give them these suggestions. Emotion, I was going to get a benefit, a tangible benefit. They gave me a vision of a brighter future. Now, each of those represents one of the influence styles, which I don't really talk about in detail on a general, free webinar. But people say what their word is, and then quickly I ask them, just thinking about it, what do you think is your default method of influencing others? And I give them a choice of words, which is, guess what? Almost exactly those same words. And they make a choice again. And then I hold my breath because it doesn't always come out the way I want.
Oh,
And there might be like 200 people on the call. And I say, can you just put in the chat, was the question to the answer, were those two words the same? And would you just say same or not same? And I'm hoping that they're going to, give me a QED and prove my point that likes like, that if your words were the same, I think this is what Lee is referring to. If your two words are the same, then that proves the principle of like likes like. And this is why you need to sharpen your listening and observation skills.
And know yourself inside and out. Know thyself.
and the other, right?
Yes.
And read the room, even if it's a room of one.
Wow. It's so that we could talk a lot longer about all this. 7 Secrets of Influence is the book. And then easyinfluence.com is how you can get a hold of Elaina for the virtual course. This has been so fun, and you guys had such fun on your webinar. I'm so glad you could come on our podcast, Elaina. This has been great.
I so appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and recommend on iTunes, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more great information at salesfuel.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.